The result you were expecting?
Yes, indeed. It was in line with the surveys done by Conservative Home and YouGov, so a very good result for Boris, a very strong mandate from Conservative members, which I'm sure Conservative MPs will take into account.
So now he has to start work, well, I think he's already started work on deciding who's going to be in his cabinet and in his government. What sort of government should it be? Should he be giving jobs across the ideological spectrum of the Conservative Party, or should this be a narrow, purist, ideological Brexiteer sort of cabinet?
Well, I think Boris is very wise and has already made it clear his broad outline, and that is people must accept that we are leaving on the 31st of October, but what people said in 2016 is not going to determine their position. So somebody like Amber Rudd, who's made it clear that she has accepted the result, is probably in a very strong position, but that people who are trying to overturn the referendum result and don't want to commit to leaving on the 31st of October will probably not be able to serve Boris.
So they have to sign up to a possible no deal?
Well, they have to sign up to collective responsibility, which is a basic constitutional point that has been shattered in the last couple of years to the great disadvantage of good government. And I think for Boris to set it out clearly that he is interested in the constitutional conventions and good government is very wise.
Are you expecting a job in the cabinet?
No, I'm not expecting anything. It's not about me. It's about can we deliver Brexit and will Boris succeed, and I have confidence that he will.
Will you take a job if offered?
I'll do anything he wants me to do.
OK. What about, you talked about the lack of cabinet collective responsibility. What about this new group of rebels we're potentially going to have? A lot of people say you have been the rebels. Now, effectively, you're in power. Your man is in power. Your man is in Downing Street. But now Philip Hammond and his cohorts are going to be the new rebels in your place.
Well, in terms of my own role in the ERG, what we were doing was standing up for what 17.4 million people voted for and what was said in the Conservative Party manifesto. That was to say that we should leave and that we should leave with or without a deal. So we were backing Conservative Party policy.
Well, you were trying to bring down the Prime Minister.
Well, only when she came forward with a withdrawal agreement that didn't meet the promises she'd previously made, yes. But that was at a point at which we had a withdrawal agreement that wasn't properly taking us out of the European Union and had a disgraceful Irish backstop. So it's not really rebellious to back Tory principles. To go against a mandate of 17.4 million people and a general election seems to me an eccentric position to take up.
What sort of deal do you think Boris Johnson might be able to get with the European Union, where Theresa May failed to get a deal that she could get through this Parliament? Do you think that Boris Johnson can do that?
Well, I think there's a fundamental difference in approach. That Boris's starting point is that leaving the European Union is a great opportunity and one from which this country can benefit. Theresa May's starting point as a Remainer was that it was a problem to be managed, and therefore how you approach the negotiation is different. And Boris recognises that no deal, leaving without an agreement, is a very strong negotiating card because the EU then doesn't get £39 billion and so on. And therefore he will be negotiating from a position of much greater strength than Theresa May, who was never willing to play that card.
Do you think when he has talked about we're leaving on October the 31st, do or die, come what may, was that campaign rhetoric? Or does he really, really mean that?
I think when he said if we kick the can, we kick the bucket, he meant it. The Conservative Party doesn't get the country out on the 31st of October. We will lose to the Brexit Party. If the Conservative Party loses to the Brexit Party, we get Jeremy Corbyn as Prime Minister, and that would be a disaster for the United Kingdom.
But can you get a no-deal Brexit if it comes to that through this place, through Parliament?
It's already been passed through Parliament twice, both in the Article 50 Act and the Withdrawal Act. And there are a number of MPs who keep on saying, oh, Parliament will never agree to no deal, who voted for the Article 50 Act and the Withdrawal Act. So either they don't understand what they vote for and just go through the division lobbies like sheep, or else they're very forgetful. The law, the default, is that we leave on the 31st of October. Parliament can only change that by changing the law. It can't do it by mere motion.
But they may be able to find a mechanism. And if they can find a mechanism, it is said there may be up to 50 Conservative MPs who would, however you want to call it, rebel against Boris Johnson and his government.
Well, you say a mechanism. There are only two ways of stopping us leaving on the 31st of October. One is to change the government, the other is to change the law. Changing the law isn't a mechanism, it is a detailed process. And changing the government requires putting Jeremy Corbyn in. Not many Conservatives, well, nobody who calls himself or herself a Conservative can want to see Jeremy Corbyn as Prime Minister.
Why is Jeremy Corbyn automatically going to be... Boris Johnson said that he's the man who can defeat Jeremy Corbyn.
Well, you're saying how do you stop Brexit? The only way to do that would be to change the government.
But if you had an election, are you not confident that you could beat the Labour Party?
Well, the way to stop Brexit isn't via an election, it's by a change of government without an election. I think the people who want to stop Brexit aren't interested in having any more votes. They're against votes because they lose them. What they want to do is do it by subterfuge. And all this talk about rejecting no deal is code for saying they don't want Brexit at all. And people like me must make it clear what they're trying to do.
But the reality could be, you've got to accept it as a possibility, that Parliament will stop a no deal and therefore you're forced into an election.
I'm sorry to be boring and repeat what I said, but Parliament's already passed the laws that make leaving without a deal the default position. And the people who are saying they don't want no deal actually...
You don't think there's any possibility that Parliament could stop
unless they bring down the government or change the law. Those are the two ways of doing it, but both of those seem very difficult to achieve.
All right. Jacob Rees-Mogg, thank you very much
indeed.
Thank you.